This wasn't a normal entrance. This was a statement: power, fire, and pure attitude. The crowd erupted, and WWE was left stunned. Nobody saw this entrance coming. In the annals of sports entertainment, moments like these are rare, fleeting glimpses into a future nobody could have predicted. It was a Tuesday night, a routine broadcast, a familiar arena buzzing with the usual anticipation. But then the lights shifted, the air crackled, and a silence, heavy with an unknown energy, fell over the thousands gathered. This wasn't the pyrotechnics of a champion's arrival, nor the playful theatrics of a fan favorite. This was something entirely different, a raw, unfiltered expression that bypassed the usual spectacle and went straight for the heart. A figure, shrouded in shadow, began to emerge, not from the top of the ramp, but from the very center of the arena floor, as if rising from the earth itself. The music wasn't a bombastic rock anthem. It was a haunting, minimalist melody that swelled with an almost primal rhythm, a beat that resonated deep within the chest. Each step was deliberate, measured, a silent challenge to the established order. The collective breath of the audience was held hostage, 1,000 pairs of eyes fixated on this singular, enigmatic presence. This wasn't just an entrance. It was an act of defiance, a quiet earthquake that would send shockwaves far beyond the wrestling ring. The stage was set, not just for a match, but for a profound shift in perception, a moment that would redefine what it meant to truly arrive. As the figure moved, the shadows began to recede, revealing not a familiar face, but a silhouette that exuded an undeniable force. Her attire was unlike anything seen before, not the glittering costumes of divas past, nor the hardened gear of brawlers. It was an almost monastic ensemble, dark and flowing, yet cut with an unmistakable sharpness that hinted at lethal precision. A hood obscured her features, allowing only the fierce glint of her eyes to pierce through the gloom. There was no smiling, no waving, no attempt to garner the usual cheers. Her gaze swept across the bewildered faces in the front row, a silent acknowledgement, but also a challenge. The commentators, usually so boisterous, were uncharacteristically hushed, their voices dropping to reverent whispers. Who is this?" Jim Ross stammered, his usual bravado replaced by genuine bewilderment. I've never seen anything like it," added Jerry Lawler, his usual comedic timing absent. Swallowed by the sheer gravity of the moment. This wasn't a pre-planned segment, it was clear. The production crew, usually orchestrating every beat, seemed momentarily frozen, caught in the undertow of this unexpected arrival. The sheer audacity of her choice to forego the traditional ramp to command the space from within the crowd itself was a masterstroke of psychological warfare. It was as if she had bypassed all the usual protocols, all the carefully constructed narratives, and simply existed. The air crackled with anticipation, a palpable tension that was almost suffocating. This was more than an entrance. It was an interruption, a disruption, a complete reset of the emotional landscape. The instant she finally stepped into the ring, the spell broke. Not with a roar, but with a collective gasp that rippled through the arena, followed by an explosion of sound unlike any heard that night. It wasn't just cheering, it was a primal outpouring of astonishment, excitement, and a touch of unease. Chants began to build, not of her name, which was still largely unknown, but of pure, unadulterated awe. "Holy so!" echoed through the rafters, a spontaneous, unfiltered reaction to the sheer audacity they had just witnessed. Backstage, the mood was a maelstrom of confusion and adrenaline. Wrestlers, usually focused on their own matches, gathered around monitors, their conversations hushed, their expressions a mixture of respect and disbelief. Veterans with decades of experience under their belts shook their heads, admitting they'd never seen such a bold, unscripted display of confidence. Rookies, wide-eyed, absorbed every detail, understanding in that moment that the game had just changed. Producers barked into headsets, trying to ascertain who had approved this, who was behind this unprecedented spectacle. But the truth was, no one had. This was a rogue wave, a force of nature that had simply arrived, sweeping aside the meticulously planned narratives and replacing them with raw, unpredictable energy. The initial shock quickly gave way to a flurry of speculation. Was this a new signing, a surprise return, or something entirely different, a defiant act that transcended the usual lines of agreement and expectation? The whispers, initially confined to backstage hallways, quickly spread, fueled by social media, igniting a firestorm of discussion across the globe. The immediate aftermath wasn't just about the crowd's reaction, it was about the seismic shift in the corporate offices. Senior executives who had seen it all were reportedly aghast, then intrigued, then furiously working to understand the implications. The meticulously crafted brand, the carefully controlled narratives, all had been momentarily derailed by a single powerful entrance. Initial reports suggested panic, then a scramble to contain the narrative. But as the social media metrics exploded, as the viewership spiked, a different kind of conversation began to take hold. This wasn't just a disruption, it was a phenomenon. The numbers were undeniable. The buzz was deafening. This unknown entity had, in one audacious move, captivated an audience that had grown somewhat accustomed to predictable patterns. The immediate concern was control. Who was this person? What were her demands? How could they harness this explosive organic energy without losing face, without admitting that their carefully constructed world had been so easily pierced? The phones rang incessantly, agents scrambling to represent her, managers trying to insert themselves into the unfolding drama. But she remained elusive, her presence on screen fleeting, leaving only the lingering impression of immense power and a deep, unsettling mystery. This wasn't just about wrestling anymore. It was about branding, about audience engagement, about the delicate balance between control and chaos. The unexpected success of her unsanctioned debut was a bitter pill for some, a thrilling opportunity for others. The unseen strings of power, usually so tightly held, were now dangling, and everyone wanted to grab them. As the initial shock began to subside, a new pressure mounted, the immense weight of expectation. Her debut was a viral sensation, a moment replayed endlessly across every platform, dissected and analyzed by fans and pundits alike. But beneath the surface-level excitement, a more profound question began to emerge. Who was she, truly? And could she live up to the impossible standard she had set for herself? The internet was ablaze with theories, fan communities weaving intricate backstories, some fabricating lineages to legendary wrestling families, others speculating on a completely fresh, enigmatic origin. The pressure to maintain this aura of mystery, while simultaneously delivering performances that matched the grandeur of her arrival, was immense. Every subsequent appearance, every subtle gesture, every flicker of emotion across her guarded face was scrutinized. Fans wanted to believe in the mythology, to invest in the drama. They craved more than just athleticism. They yearned for a story, a purpose behind the power. This wasn't just about winning matches. It was about defining a legacy, not just for herself, but for an entire generation yearning for something different. The established order, initially stunned, now watched with a critical eye, waiting for her to falter, for the veneer of invincibility to crack. The wrestling world is notoriously unforgiving, a crucible where even the brightest stars can quickly fade under the glare of intense scrutiny. The very elements that made her debut so impactful, its unpredictability and raw authenticity, also made her vulnerable to the relentless demands of a ravenous audience. The media, always hungry for a new narrative, descended like a swarm. Talk shows clamored for interviews, magazines vied for exclusive profiles, and news outlets, usually distant from the world of sports entertainment, suddenly found themselves dedicating segments to the phenomenon. This wasn't just about wrestling anymore, it was a cultural event. But the relentless focus, the constant speculation, began to take its toll, not just on her, but on those around her. Rumors, both wild and mundane, circulated daily. Was she a loner, fiercely protective of her privacy? Or was she a calculating strategist, carefully orchestrating every move for maximum impact? The speculation grew so intense that it began to overshadow her in-ring performances, turning every match into a secondary event to the ongoing narrative of her mystique. Even her opponents, usually the focus of their own storylines, found themselves overshadowed, their roles reduced to mere foils in her unfolding drama. The media circus, while initially amplifying her legend, also threatened to consume it, transforming a genuine moment of rebellion into a product, a spectacle to be consumed and discarded. The danger lay in the paradox. The more she was discussed, the more her true self seemed to recede, replaced by 1,000 different interpretations. The sheer volume of analysis threatened to dilute the very essence of what made her so captivating in the first place: her unexplained power, her enigmatic presence. She had become an icon, but at what cost to the human being beneath the myth? While the world buzzed with her name, far from the arenas and the flashing lights, a quieter drama unfolded. Her family, living a life of relative anonymity, suddenly found themselves thrust into the unwanted spotlight. They were not accustomed to the relentless glare, the probing questions, the sudden attention of strangers. For them, she was not the phenomenon, but a daughter, a sister, a friend. The pride they felt was immense, a quiet joy witnessing her undeniable power, but it was also laced with a deep, unsettling concern. They understood the sacrifices she had made, the unwavering dedication that had led her to this moment. They remembered the countless hours of training, the quiet determination, the moments of doubt she had overcome. Now, the private struggle had become a public spectacle, and they worried about the emotional toll. Calls from distant relatives, old friends, and even complete strangers seeking connection or information became a daily occurrence. The weight of her burgeoning fame cast a long shadow over their previously quiet lives, demanding a new kind of resilience. They saw the headlines, the social media frenzy, and felt a strange disconnect. The person they knew, the one who shared their quiet moments and intimate jokes, seemed to be receding behind the larger-than-life persona the world had created. Their concern wasn't for her success, but for her well-being, for the human spirit beneath the powerful exterior. Backstage, the initial awe had given way to a complex web of reactions. Some veterans, initially dismissive, now offered grudging respect, acknowledging her undeniable impact. Others, however, viewed her with suspicion, seeing her unsanctioned debut as a breach of etiquette, a challenge to the established hierarchy. The locker room, a place usually governed by unwritten rules and long-held traditions, became a subtle battleground. Alliances, once firm, began to shift. The established stars, whose storylines had long dominated the airwaves, found themselves fighting for screen time, their carefully crafted narratives momentarily eclipsed. Promising newcomers, who had spent years toiling in developmental territories, watched with a mixture of admiration and envy. Understanding that her path, however unconventional, had opened doors they could only dream of. Whispers of resentment mingled with genuine curiosity. Was she truly a lone wolf, or was there a powerful force, an unseen mentor, guiding her movements? The truth was more complex. She was both. Her raw talent was undeniable, but her emergence had also been facilitated by a quiet network of allies, individuals disillusioned with the predictable nature of the product, who saw in her a chance for genuine change. These unseen alliances, forged in the shadows, were as crucial to her rise as her own innate power, providing a buffer against the immediate backlash and allowing her statement to resonate far and wide. The chaos of her rise eventually led to a moment of quiet, a rare pause in the relentless pace. One evening, away from the roaring crowds and the demanding cameras, she found herself in a candid conversation with an unexpected confidant, a veteran wrestler, respected for her wisdom and stoic presence, who had witnessed countless careers rise and fall. The conversation was not about strategy, nor about future opponents, but about the true cost of her immense impact. The veteran spoke of the sacrifice, the loneliness that often accompanies greatness, the constant pressure to be more than human. She listened, her guarded expression softening, revealing a glimpse of the vulnerability beneath the powerful exterior. The veteran didn't offer advice, but understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the burden she carried. It was a rare moment of connection, a reminder that even in a world of larger-than-life characters, there was still a shared humanity. The veteran understood that the statement she had made wasn't just about a bold entrance, it was about something deeper, a yearning for authenticity in a world often defined by artifice. This conversation, unheard by the millions who adored her, was a crucial turning point. A moment where the external noise faded and the internal truth began to emerge. It was a reminder that even the most powerful individuals need moments of quiet reflection, moments to reconcile the public persona with the private self. The twist, the profound revelation, was not about her lineage or a hidden superpower. It was far more subtle, more human, and ultimately more impactful. The boldness of her entrance, the fire, the pure attitude. It wasn't just her statement. It was our statement. The WWE shocked title, the sensational headlines, the viral phenomenon. They were all symptoms of a deeper hunger within the audience, a yearning for something raw, authentic, and utterly unpredictable. She hadn't just created an entrance, she had tapped into a collective subconscious desire for rebellion, for a break from the meticulously choreographed narratives. The power, fire, and pure attitude that stunned the crowd was, in essence, a reflection of the audience's own desire to see boundaries pushed, to witness a genuine moment of disruption. She was merely the vessel, the catalyst through which this unspoken craving manifested. The true architect of that bold entrance was not a single individual, but the collective spirit of the fans themselves, yearning for an emotional immersion that transcended the usual spectacle. Her entrance wasn't just a challenge to WWE, it was a challenge to us, the viewers, to re-evaluate what truly captivated us. It forced us to confront our own desires for the unexpected, for the visceral, for the moments that truly make us feel alive. The simple, viral moment was anything but simple. It was a profound reflection of our own yearning for authenticity, a mirror held up to the very core of what makes us human. Her entrance wasn't just about her, it was about us, and our timeless desire to be genuinely shocked, thrilled, and moved by the unfolding drama of life.